Hello, welcome to the program Spiritism Inspiring Lives. Today we carry on our studies as we are all learners about Spiritism, reflecting about the theme patience. And we have here with us the member of our group, Andrea Barber, who will be facilitating this theme for us. But first of all, I would invite everyone to facilitate our internal harmonization, just to stop, to breathe, to relax our minds and hearts, and think about the love, the universal love that surrounds us all, that created us, that blesses us in every day, in every moment. With our hearts expressing gratitude for this unique moment in our existences, for this opportunity to learn, for this opportunity to grow, as unique beings in the universe as we all are. And in that way, with our hearts, with gratitude, gratefulness, we start to study today. So be it. So once more, everyone, welcome for today's study about patience within the reflections that Spiritism presents to us. And in order to facilitate this theme for us, as previously mentioned, we have here Andrea to do that for us. And in that way, Andrea, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Ebenezer. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well. Thank you for this opportunity to share these reflections with you today. And we are going to talk about patience. And to be honest, studying this topic is helping me to work on my own patience. And I do hope it helps you as well. So before we start, I would like to give a brief introduction about what Spiritism, who was Allan Kardec, what's a spirit, and a few words about reincarnation. So the Gospel according to Spiritism is where I'm going to be reading about this topic, patience, which is in a chapter 9, Blessed are the meek and the pacemakers. So Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail, he was the founder of Spiritism, and he's as known as Allan Kardec. He was born in 1804 and he passed away 1869. So Allan Kardec organized and compiled methodically the teachings he received from various spirits through mediums. He emphasized rationality, morality, and scientific investigations of spiritual phenomena. So, Allan Kardec, the main books the main books by Allan Kardec are the Spirit's book, which covers the nature of spirits, the afterlife, reincarnation, the ethical moral laws. The Medium's book, 1861, the Spirit's book, 1857, Medium's book, 1861, is a guide for mediums and those studying spirit communication. The Gospel according to Spiritism, which was 1864, interprets the moral teachings of Jesus through the lens of Spiritism. Heaven and Hell, 1865, discussed the fate of souls after death, based on spirit testimonies. And the Genesis, Miracles and Predictions according to Spiritism, which is 1868, which offers a Spiritist interpretation of creation, miracles, and prophecy. So let's reflect on Spiritism. Spiritism teaches that we are immortal spiritual beings on a journey of growth and learning across multiple existences. It focuses on inner transformation, improving our thoughts, feelings, and actions so we can evolve morally and spiritually. It encourages as well letting go of unhealthy attachment to material things, people, and rigid ideas, understanding that true progress comes from within. It also teaches the law of cause and effect, meaning that our choices have consequences that help us learn and grow over time. Spiritism helps us to change our lenses, giving us new perspectives, teaching us to see life's events differently, helping us to give a new meaning to what we go through so we can rewrite our day with clarity and tranquility, feeling lighter. So, Spiritism is a science, is a philosophy, and religion. In the book What is Spiritism by Allan Kardec, we learn that it is the science that deals with the nature, origin, and destiny of spirits and their relationship with the corporeal world. So let's break down these three subjects. Science. It's a science because it studies observable phenomena related to spirit manifestations and communication. It's a philosophy because it explores ethical teachings and the purpose of life. And religion because it's based on Jesus' teachings. On the speech of a Parisian Society of Spiritist Studies that was written in 1868, Allan Kardec shows us as religions, it is religion of the heart. And this definition sets Spiritism apart from mere belief of systems or religion. Allan Kardec emphasized its empirical and rational foundation. So we also learn with Pestalozzi that pedagogical love is that which manages to awaken in others, be it a child, a student, a spouse, a friend, a sibling, or humanity, the desire for good, the desire for good, the longing for light, the irresistible will to grow, the feeling of God, and the certainty of the path to follow. So let's talk about the spirits. We are immortal spirits, always learning and growing. On earth, the spirit uses a physical body connected through a spiritual body called perispirit. As conscious beings, we have the power to reshape and re-educate ourselves towards what is good and new. So change begins with our thoughts, growing into actions, and as we fulfill our duties, brings us the sense of lightness and happiness. And just a little bit of bracket about happiness here. In the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, on chapter 1, the chapter is Divine or Natural Law. On the question 614, we learn that Allan Kardec asked to the benefactors, what is meant by natural law? And the benefactors answered, natural law is the law of God. It is the only one law that is truly necessary for human beings to be happy. It shows them what they should or not should do, and they only suffer misfortune when they depart from it. So just for us to understand a little bit of happiness within Spiritism, according to Spiritism. So we are made of three parts. So spirit, which we are the individual essence, immortal self. Perispirit, it's semi-material. It's our spiritual body that connects the spirit and the physical body. And it's where we print all the sensation, thoughts, experiences, everything is printed in our perispirit. Any physical body, it's material. It's our body we use while living on earth. So when we die, the physical body remains, but we, the spirit, and our perispirit continue to live in the spiritual world until we reincarnate again. On the Medium's book, Allan Kardec in item 2, he says, and I quote, spirits are nothing but the souls of human beings stripped of their physical body. And then about reincarnation, a few words. Reincarnation is the process which we reborn into a new physical body to learn, to evolve, to carry on making up for our past mistakes, progressing ethically and morally through many existences. So just to resume, we have one life, many existences. And let's begin now about patience, coming back to our topic today, patience. This is from the the Gospel according to Spiritism. So item 7. Pain is a blessing sent by God to all his elected. So when we suffer, do not allow yourself to become afflicted. Rather bless the omnipotent who, through the pain of this world, has chosen you to receive glory in heaven. Be patient, because this is also a charity. Everyone should practice the love of charity as taught by Christ, who is God's envoy. Charity given to the poor in the form of alms is the easiest of all. However, there is another kind of charity which is much more laborious and so consequently offer higher merit. That is to forgive all those placed in your pathway by God to act as instruments for your suffering and to test your patience. We know full well that life is difficult, being composed of so many apparently useless, insignificant, and valueless things which act as repeated pinpricks and end up hurting us. However, if on the one hand we observe with care and duties imposed upon us, and on the other hand recognize the consolations and compensations received, then we must admit that the blessings are far more numerous than the pains. When our eyes are raised up to heaven, our burdens appear to be less heavy than when our brow is bound down to the earth. Courage, my friends. Christ is your model. He suffered far more than any of you and had nothing to offer penitence for. Whereas you must attune for our past and thereby fortify ourselves for the future. So be patient, be Christians. This word summarizes everything. A friend is spirit. So this is Havre 1862. So what I'm going during this study here, we will focus on our habits changing. That is replacing our old habits we created within timeless habits. Habits that are healthy today, healthy tomorrow, and always within ourselves and towards the others. When that presentation said about patience, about choosing the chosen or elected. For Spiritism, the chosen or elected are not privileged people, but those who are spiritually prepared to grow through trials. So patience is a form of charity towards ourselves. You're going to be seeing this phrase during these slides. So let's reflect on pain and spiritual growth was mentioned before. So pain is not a punishment, but a tool for the evolution and education of the soul. So when was mentioned before about the elected, so the elected are all of us who chose to learn from our trials. God does not want us to suffer. He trusts our strength to overcome our limitations. That's why he allows us to go through pain, through problems, because he knows we are capable to overcome our limitations. So through free will, we choose the good within us and grow spiritually. When we maintain faith and serenity, patience transforms suffering into growth and brings peace to our hearts. So in the Gospel according to Spiritism, we learn that patience is not just waiting. It's a form of charity we practice towards ourselves and others. It's the ability to look at our difficulties through the eyes of the soul, meaning that we know every challenge has a purpose. In a world marked by haste, anxiety, and immediate gratification, patience often feels outdated or even impossible. But yet, Spiritism shows us that patience is not only possible, but it's essential for our spiritual growth. So let's have some reflections here. Why do we become impatient so easily? Because you are used to instant results, because you want everything now, because you have not yet fully developed this virtue, patience within. But once we conquered this virtue, it remains with us eternally. Life invites us to grow beyond urgency and learn patience every day, every moment. So, another reflection: when something is out of our control, do we panic or do we trust? So, being aware of our thoughts and being aware of our feelings does not change what happened, but it changes how it affects us. So, awareness creates a pause between the event and our reaction. So, that pause is powerful. As Shikshave wisely advised us, is sometimes when you feel anger rising, holding water in our mouth can help us stay silent and avoid an impulsive reaction. So, between impulsive and action, there is a choice. That choice defines our growth. So, that's why Jesus said, yes, it's difficult because our old habits, but it's possible if we want. So, according to the Spirit Andrea Luiz, he says, impatience creates unnecessary conflicts. So let's talk a little bit about suffering. Why does suffering feel unbearable at times? Because you cling to pride and selfishness. Because you resist instead of surrendering to God. Rigid makes pain heavier. So you're not here to suffer, but you're here to learn and to grow in love. Nobody was born to suffer. But if I don't change my perspective, like Spiritism is helping us, we can suffer. Pain, it's okay. We're going to feel pain. But suffering is an option. So let's transform this pain. How can patience transform the pain into learning? So by maintaining serenity, specifically in the moments of offenses, delays, difficulties, others' mistakes. In these moments, we can choose between conflict or inner peace. Sometimes, if you want to be the last one to have the word, if you want to have if you want to be the last one having the word, if you want to always be right with everything, we're not choosing for the inner peace. You're choosing for conflict. You're choosing to ego win some situation, which is not worth it. And then you can ask, what's more important, reason or peace? So Spirit does not promise a life without trials, but it offers us something greater, which is understanding, consolation, and hope. So by the time we understand ourselves, we can understand the other, where we are emotionally, mentally. We can open our minds, understand the others where they are as well. So by that, we have the power to control ourselves, to choose better. So in the book Patience by Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Chic Xavier, we learn calmness is the foundation of patience. Without inner serenity, we react impulsively. So calmness is a sign of trust in God, where we're working on humility as well, another essential virtue for us. So, which is opposite of ego and selfishness, where I've mentioned before on the slide. And what is patience in Spiritism? In Spiritism, patience is a virtue we are all called to cultivate within ourselves. So, patience is not passivity or weakness. It is an active inner force that reflects the evolution of the spirit. When our values are limited and weak, we might think strength means shouting, aggression, or having the last word. But as we grow ethically, morally, in love, we discover that real strength, the kind that brings us freedom, lies in learning to be calm, to disarm ourselves before situations and before people, and to use our intelligence with love. Because without love, Intelligence can become a weapon that harms much more than it helps. So to be patient is to act with inner strength while trusting the divine order that governs life. So patience grows from the three main spiritual understandings: trust in God, awareness of spirit immortality, and acceptance of divine justice. So let's break down so we can understand a little bit more in our daily lives. So trusting God. Trusting God calms our heart. Why? Because the patient person trusts that nothing happens without a purpose. So the difficulties are opportunities for growth permitted by divine wisdom. A Father who loves us, who created us with love to love. So let's give you two examples here. One example about delays. When something important does not happen at the time you expect, a job, a healing, a solution, anxiety often follows. So yet, instead of straightening this old habit, we can choose to replace it with a better one, surrendering to God. We remind ourselves with reason and faith. I do not yet understand this delay, but I trust God that God knows the right time. Instead of despair, we continue doing our part calmly, trusting that nothing good is denied, only postponed for our growth. So we learn with Spirit Shayla, avoid anger. Irritation worsens illness, unbalances the mind, and negativity affects the spirit. In moments of adversity, turn to pray and do the best you can. If you cannot, by all means, change the difficult situation, calm yourself and wait. God sees you and will guide you through intangible hands towards the appropriate solution. So here is a big example for us to really work on our surrounding, on our trust that we are not alone. So let's see another example, unexpected problems. When sudden difficulties appear, illness, financial problem, or family conflict, trusting God is not about asking, why me? Coming from a place of self-pity. Instead, it's about asking with humility, what is God teaching me through this situation? What do I need to learn that I didn't learn yet through the situation that's happened to me? Remember that God is always with us. Even when the path is hard, everything we go through can help us to grow if we choose to. Awareness of spirituality, immortality. So when you're aware of spiritual immortality, expands our vision. Why? Because knowing that the spirit lives beyond this present existence help us to endure trials calmly, understanding that progress evolves over many existences, as Allan Kardec teaches us in his Spirit's book. So let's see two examples about it. One example, injustice in life. Sometimes good people suffer while others prosper unfairly. Spiritism teaches that life is eternal, and this world is just one stage of our journey. What seems unfair today will be balanced in the future, in this existence or another. So according to the law of cause and effect, which is another law of love. So there is no injustice. So it means there is no unfairly. So only cases we do not see yet, life continues and every effect has a deeper cause. Since every effect has a cause, let us use our free will choosing our causes wisely. So let's see the second one, loss and separation. When someone we love leaves the physical body through the natural process of life, pain is natural. Yet, with awareness of spiritual immortality and with patience, we can remember that life continues and love does not die. This understanding does not remove our sadness, but it replaces despair with hope and rebellion with comfort. That's why I mentioned before, like pain. Yes, pain is going to happen, but suffer is an option. If you don't accept what's supposed to be, we suffer. And you don't need to go through this way. So Espírito Joana de Angelis, the Espírito Joana de Angelis teaches us that death is life, life is in abundance. So Joana de Angelis reminds us that death is not an end. It's a continuation of life. What we call death is only a change of state. When the spirit leaves the physical body, it does not vanish. It carries on and returns to its true nature. So the body rests, but life goes on. And continuing, Jesus himself said, I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. This abundant life is not limited to the body. It's the immortal life of the spirit. So why this understanding console us? Why knowing, understanding about this death continuous situation console us? Because when you understand that life continues, fear diminishes and separation becomes temporary. In the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec explains, fear is born of ignorance. With knowledge, it diminishes. In other words, we can say, when we don't understand spirits or life after death, we can feel afraid. But fear naturally fades as we truly study Spiritism, in our case here, to free our minds and enlighten our minds as well. There is one singer very famous in Brazil. His name is Gilberto Gil. His daughter passed away. I don't know when. I don't remember when. And I found very touching when he said to her, I mean, when he went to the funeral, he just looked at her body and he said to her, my daughter, my love, I see you soon. I felt very touching that scene. So in Heaven and Hell, part 1, Allan Kardec, through the Superior Spirits, teaches that the fear of death diminishes as belief in the future life becomes clear. So in other words, true understanding of the soul's survival makes death loses its terror. Death is not a punishment, but is a natural transition governed by divine love, which is God. Living with patience, charity, and trust in God prepares us for abundant life, both here and beyond. May this certainty help us live better today, love more deeply, forgive more easily, and trust God more fully, because life, true life, is eternal. So let's see another situation here. We broke down trust in God. Now let's break down acceptance of divine justice. So acceptance of divine justice is totally related to the law of cause and effect, which brings us peace. Why? Because patience comes from recognizing that divine justice is perfect, even when you cannot immediately understand events. What seems unfair now might be part of a greater harmony. So let's give you 2 examples. One example, consequences of our own actions. So when we face difficulties caused by our own choices, accepting divine justice helps us to understand that God allows us to learn never to punish. Instead of feeling guilty or revolt, we can choose responsibility and the improvement of our virtues, such as patience, humility, forgiveness, kindness, and more. Let's see another one. Trials we do not understand. So some suffering seems undeserved. Yet, when we accept divine justice, we trust that God sees beyond what we can see. What feels unfair now might be a necessary lesson or even a path of repair chosen before reincarnation, because we know we are the author of our life. Everything we choose today, we are free to choose, but you're not free for the consequences. So these trials teach us patience, and patience leads to our inner freedom. As taught in Spiritism, patience is also a form of charity, and we need to practice the law of charity taught by Jesus. which is Jesus defined charity as we call B BIF here. So benevolence towards all, indulgence for the imperfections of others, and forgiveness of offenses. We learn that forgiveness is not about forgetting the mistakes or excusing the person who made it. But true forgiveness happens when we can remember the situation without feeling the same pain it once caused. This process might take days, years, or even lifetimes, but depending on us. And over time, forgiveness frees us from suffering and allows us to feel truly peace. Again, it's our responsibility, it's our choice if you decide to forgive and feel free of ourselves, or if you decide to carry on appointing and not forgive. So let's see a few examples. Apply patience when you notice impatience. We want life to follow our own timetable. So when we expect everything instantly, we create unnecessary suffering. Patience, however, helps us to accept life's timing, learn its lesson, and grow and move on. It all allows us to move from the passivity to conscious assertiveness, trusting the process while actively doing our part. So when you forget that you also can forget that planet Earth is a school, not a paradise. So Earth, being one of God's school, is a place for us to learn and renew ourselves within. Is a space where we develop our inner virtues. And you have these opportunities every single day when you wake up. We thank God for this opportunity one more day to try to work on ourselves, on our limitations. And I mean, in this planet Earth, you pass away, you carry on working on ourselves, wherever we are in this universe. So patience helps us face trials calmly, recognizing our mistakes and improving ourselves. In other words, suffering and difficulties are not punishments. They are lessons that help us become better. Better in a way that developing our qualities, such as honesty, compassion, kindness, so more loving and more resilient. Patience is the tool that allows us to learn from these experiences instead of resisting them. Patience is the quiet certainty that nothing happens without a reason, even when that reason is still hidden from us. Joanna de Angelis also teaches that constant complaining is a disease of the soul. It weakens us by focusing on what is wrong and keeps us in a place of inaction. So complaining weakens the soul. Gratitude and patience build it. Let's see patience as an ethical challenge. In the Spirits book, Allan Kardec asks the spirits about human suffering and moral weaknesses. And the answer is they are consequences of our choices, going far from God's laws within, and the lessons we need to learn in order to feel well. So that reminds me as well when you saw before about happiness. So we learned that impatience is often connected to our pride, to our selfishness, and also to excessive attachment to material life. When you become impatient, we are often saying internally, things should happen my way. But Spiritism reminds us we see only one chapter of the book and God sees the entire story, which I think it gives us a lot of hope in our hearts. Impatience intensifies pain, whereas patience softens it. When you feel impatient, you don't feel happy, you don't feel light, definitely not. Patience means governing our thoughts, words, and actions when emotions arise. very challenging time. That's why before you also saw when you have patience, we can control these impulsive reactions. So true strength is self-mastery. Patience and the law of cause and effect. Let's talk about this. In Spiritism, the law of cause and effect teaches that through free will, our choices shape our spiritual growth. So patience helps us to accept today's results as learning consequences and encourages us to choose better causes for better consequences tomorrow. So this tomorrow, it means is the next second. Many of our present difficulties may be consequences of past choices and actions, lessons chosen before reincarnation, the opportunities for inner healing and reparation. So, in the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec explains that trials are often accepted by the Spirit, us, before we reincarnate, before we come back to Earth. So, knowing that would contribute to our own progress. When we lack patience, we may miss the lesson and ignore the opportunities for our progress. We create new causes that lead to the future challenges. So patience, in other hand, refines us by helping us overcome our limitations, elevate us as souls, as spirits. So being patient with situations is important, but being patient with people is essential. In the book Green Light by Spirit André Luiz, psychographed by Chico Xavier, we learn tolerance is active charity. Impatience with others often reflects impatience with ourselves. Why? Because you also learn in Spiritism that we can't give to the others what we don't have. So each person is at different stage of spiritual development. Therefore, people act according to their level of awareness. To tolerate does not mean to agree. It means to understand the other person's stage of growth. We are all in different levels, mentally, emotionally. So patience does not remove the difficulty, but it changes the way we walk through it. So when we respond with calm instead of irritation, with understanding instead of judgment, we transform relationships and we can grow spiritually. With good habits, improving ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically. Patience protects harmony, where stay calm prevents arguments. Patience preserves affection, where relationships stay strong. Patience strengthens our character, builds inner strength and self control. In this way, patience is a true act of love, self love. So, Jesus, the supreme example of patience. Allan Kardec, in the Spirit's book, questions 6 to 5, asks the benefactors what is the most perfect type that God has offered to man to serve as a guide and model? And the answer given is Jesus. So Jesus as the purest moral model humanity has known. So he considered patience. He considered his patience with ignorance, with betrayal, with injustice, with adversity, and at no point did Jesus rebel against divine justice. And at no point did Jesus respond with hatred. That's why he's our model. For our reflection, if Jesus, humanity's supreme model of moral and ethical conduct on earth, faced challenge with patience, how much more should we practice this virtue in our own lives? Considering that we still imperfect, walk in the path of improvement. So patience in our daily life. Patience is often tested in small things, small situations. Yet we can ask ourselves, What are the true priority in our life? So, for example, in the family, which is our home, our first school, we can ask, why does the family require more patience? At home, we show who you truly are. We have high expectation of ourselves and others, and emotional intimacy or freedom brings our strength and weakness to light. At home, we don't have masks. We are what you are. It's easy to be patient with others outside, but true inner growth begins at home, where we have more opportunities to love more, to control our pride, to exercise forgiveness, repairing past mistakes through self-control and humility, develop our tolerance, which is another virtue, recognizing that we are all learning. As the Spirit Manual teaches, the family is the school of the soul. So let's see patience between parents and a child. For example, a child repeats the same mistake. When we are impatient, you can say, "You never learn," you can shout. But when you work on the patience on ourselves, we can understand that learning is gradual and guide the child with responsibility and calmness. Because as you said before, we saw before, the way we manifest ourselves to the others, the way we manifest ourselves to ourselves. So let's reflect on the times that we feel impotent versus the times we consciously and actively practice patience within ourselves. So let's see between couples. Between couples. Example. Differences in personality. We all different, which is amazing. But one is organized and the other isn't. So when you're impatient, we constant criticize them. We always use the irony and also repeated arguments. Therefore, you live in a war. So when you practice the patience, we can discuss, we can understand the other's rhythm and negotiate solutions. For this, we needed to disarm ourselves, like you mentioned before. We needed to really, really work on our patience, first of all, our humility, lots of virtues here. So patience, let's see with elderly parents, for example. They repeat stories, the parents, the old parents, they repeat stories or they take time to complete tasks. When we are impatient, we can respond harshly or ignore them, coming from a place of very cruelty and indifference. When you work on our patience, we can listen with care, respecting their space, and is a massive exercise in gratitude and maturity. So let's see between siblings, arguments over differing opinions. So when in patience, feeling the need to win the argument, totally connected to pride, to selfishness, to own interests. So when you work in our patience on ourselves, respect that each one of us is at a different stage of evolution. So a small daily situation, practice our patience when someone forgets something important at work, at home, whatever, whenever you are, when the house is messy, when financial difficulties really experiences to work our patience. So these moments might seem minor, but they are opportunities for us to make the most of it, practice patience, reflect on our priorities, and cultivate our virtues. Let's say, for example, in illness. Illness can help develop our patience, encourage humility, and strengthen faith. For example, in a physical pain. When we have a physical pain, sometimes we can face chronic pains, for example. Spiritism explains that the spirit might be learning perseverance and inner strength. There are qualities that is really rare to grow easily in comfort. So physical pain is real and can be difficult. But however, how we respond to it, that shapes our spiritual growth. So let's give you some examples. Two people with the same illness. One is bitter and hopeless. The other one develops empathy, gratitude, and patience. So, as the gospel, according to Spiritism, teaches, suffering can become constructive when met with acceptance rather than revolt. So let's say we've got the physical pain. Let's talk about emotional exhaustion. So feeling drained during illness does not mean that lack of faith. It's a part of the experience. What matters is continuing to act, even in small ways, to cultivate hope, kindness, trust, and patience. In this context, patience is an active virtue, not passive suffering. So let's say, for example, at work and in society, in the green light by the spirit André Luiz, psychographed by Chico Xavier, we learn that our behavior in front of the others reflect our spiritual level. So when I'm talking, depending how I treat the other is the way I treat myself. So therefore, we are encouraged to act with balance when facing disappointments or rudeness. So let's say, for example, when you're in public, when at work, in traffic, on social media. So patience helps us to respond with dignity and serenity, even when challenged situations. So many aggressive or hurtful actions come from pain, from fear, from insecurity, from spirit ignorance. By observing our thoughts and feelings, aware understanding, focus on what we truly wish to achieve, and act consciously in accordance with the divine laws that exist within, avoiding impulsive reactions. Growing through prayer and self reflection. Pray is not for us to ask for our difficulties to disappear, but is for us to have strength to face them. Observe ourselves, noticing our reactions. Ask why we feel disturbed by certain situations. Because you learn in Spiritism, it's not the other one makes something for us. No, we make something for us. And here you are to control ourselves and you are to change. So be aware, understanding arises when we see beyond the surface actions. As the spirit André Luiz teaches us in the book Green Light, real insight comes from understanding the deeper purpose behind what happens. And let's see about charity. So true charity is born from patience. In helping others, we learn to endure, to forgive, and soften the burdens of our own heart. Each act of kindness, helping a neighbor, listening patiently, volunteering, treating others as brothers and sisters, giving without expecting anything in return, trains us patience and empathy. So, through these acts, we learn that our inner progress happens not in haste, but in a gentle and persistent love. And to conclude, inner growth is personal, it can't be transferred. No one can grow for another. Each one of us needed to learn and progress through our own experiences. We can support and love one another, but transformation is an individual choice. So may we practice patience with ourselves, with life, with the others, remembering that progress happens step by step under God's loving guidance. And the sources I use here was the Gospel according to Spiritism. What is Spiritism? the Spirits book, the Heaven and Hell, and the Green Light, and Patience. So thank you for all, and I wish you all much peace.
Thank you very much indeed, Andrea. Hopefully all of us who are here and those who perhaps later on join this talk also can feel a bit more inspired and nourished on the soul level in terms of how to learn to be patient. So thank you very much for your reflections, your time, and also for those who have been with us. And we invite everyone to conclude these moments of self-enlightenment in, again, once more, giving thanks to the greatest love in the universe, which is God, for these unique moments in our existences, for these reflections which help to nourish our own souls, spirits, immortal beings as we are, because we all still are learning regarding patience. So let's say thank you, be grateful, and also at the same time think for all of those that perhaps may be in pain in the universe or on earth, and join us together through our hearts and minds and wish them peace in their hearts, in their minds, despite of the hardships that sometimes we or them may be going through, despite of the wars that still exist on earth and all of those who are involved currently, asking that Jesus, the greatest educator of all, the psychotherapist of all, may bless everyone with his divine love, soothe our souls and their souls, so that we can carry on our journeys as learners, improving ourselves, growing, and always learn to be grateful for everything that we have, understanding that sometimes things are not as we wish to, but they are in the right measure for the right learning. So submit ourselves in a humble way, in a resignated way, that the rest, the universal love, helps us to promote ourselves forward. And in that way, saying once more, thank you to Andrea, thank you to all of those who have been with us, thank you for the spiritual benefactors who have been with us, also blessing this moment, helping us, and hope that we have other opportunities in the future to carry on learning together and enlightening ourselves. In that way, wishing much peace to all and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.